Welcome to Behind the Lens. Today, Guillermo del Toro, one of the great directors, with The Shape of Water, his latest film. Thank you for coming in here today.
My pleasure.
What a great time to talk to you, because you've done so many great films, so many, not just directed them, but produced them and brought so many things into the world out of your passion, I believe, for filmmaking. But The Shape of Water is in its own class here.
Yes.
And I know this. You think this is your favorite film so far, right?
It is. It's very odd because actually, if you ask me to define it emotionally, I would say it's my first film. Oh. It's odd to say it because it's in many ways a construct, you know. But one of my mentors in Mexico saw it and he said, "You finally exhaled." Oh. And I think he's right. I mean, it's almost like all 25 years of filmmaking led me to this one, and to letting breathe. And it's a movie that is therefore full of humanity, full of warmth, humor, depth. It's very political, but it's not topical. It's a really gorgeous place to be right now.
And a fairy tale, a love story, so many different things. And
it's a thriller, spy movie.
A Valentine to other movies?
Yes. To Douglas Sirk, Emmerich Pressburger, Michael Powell, so many.
Wow. And it's, although it looks like it's on a big scale, this was actually a relatively inexpensive movie by your standards.
Yeah. I mean, to give you an example, it costed $19.5 million. Yeah. The movie looks like it costed 70.
Oh, at least.
At least. and it was very ambitious. And to give you an example, 10 years before, Pan's Labyrinth, which has a smaller scope, costed exactly the same.
Wow.
10 years ago. Yeah. But I knew that in order to market it the right way, Searchlight needed to stay in that budget. So we did it. It included my salary as writer, producer, and director. It all went back into the movie.
Yeah, and the acting, and to have that level of actors there.
I wrote it for 4 of the main cast. Particularly Sally Hawkins. It was a silent performance because, first of all, I think love renders you speechless. Yeah. That was very important. It was not about people saying sweet things to each other, but to look at each other. Yeah. To recognize something in each other, no matter how different you are. That's why the movie is called The Shape of Water, because it's the shape of love. Love and water, the 2 strongest forces in the universe, because they're malleable and they are flexible. They take no form. And they break through everything, Wow. And I thought it was really important that they looked at each other. And I gave Sally a box of Blu-rays with Harold Lloyd, Buster Keaton, Chaplin, and Stan Laurel. Because Stan Laurel is the master of doing nothing and doing everything,
Right. Wow. So she watched all of that, and it is a beautiful silent performance.
Yes.
But it's the visual. To me, cinema for actors in particular, it's in the eyes.
Completely. A great actor. The misconception you have is that a great actor, you have it as an audience. A great actor delivers great lines. Yeah. No. A great actor looks, and a great actor listens. To the other actors and reacts and is in the moment. And nevertheless, Sally, which is a mute character. 2 things I knew I wanted out of the movie. A musical number where she sang, because you can only talk about love by singing.
Right.
And the second one that was very important is she gets a monologue, a really long monologue that is very personal to me, and that she gets to do it through Richard Jenkins, which is a beautiful moment.
Which is great. And he's wonderful, too. I mean, he's just so good in everything. He's one of those actors that can do no wrong, in my opinion. Right?
And The Visitor.
Yeah.
The movie The Visitor is one of the greatest acting tour de force movies.
Yeah, extraordinary. Now, I've heard that you are so dedicated to this film, and it's been such a remarkable experience for you personally, that you're not going to direct for a while.
A year off.
A year off because of this.
Yeah, which in my book means I'm going to produce 3 series for Netflix and 2 features for Fox. But directing, I'm off.
Oh, okay.
But it was important for me because I wanted to usher the movie into the world, enjoy every step of it, and quite frankly, meditate and think and live a little, read a little about what am I doing next. I mean, I have many things in progress, but to take the time to live a little bit.
this takes you to another level in your career where you are just saying, what do I really want to do? You know, you've done so much and accomplished so much, and you're satisfied with what you've done in the past then.
I've done 10 movies, and I like 5 of them.
Really?
That's a good average.
Let me guess which ones. Pan's Labyrinth.
This is first. Devil's Backbone second.
Okay.
Pan's Labyrinth third. Crimson Peak fourth. And shocking for most people, Pacific Rim and Hellboy 2 are always competing for the fifth one.
Okay, you got me right there. I would agree with that list right there. And I know some people, I loved Pacific Rim.
I love it.
Because I thought it came from somebody who is just simply having fun with movies. It was a movie.
And it's very cinematic.
Yeah, extremely cinematic.
And the problem with Pacific Rim is it was launched at a moment in which Legendary and Warner's were divorcing.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like Kramer versus Kramer, and we were the child, you know.
Yeah. So you were stuck in the middle of all of that?
We were a parental bickering, you know.
It's still, I think there's a sequel now.
Yeah. No, the movie still grows 415 million worldwide. It was one of the, if not the most profitable original content franchise launched that year, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't mean, I think, you know, I felt the movie, had it been blessed by a functional family, would have worked very differently.
But still the love, and everyone knows your love for monsters, and that in your background there, that came through to me very much in that film.
Yeah, but look, the main thing I can say about all the movies, about all 10 of them, is they're done earnestly, heart and sleeve, non-ironic, not postmodern, with absolutely, like, I would die for each and every one of those 10. Yeah. All of them. And you give it your all with love and dedication. There's not a movie I've ever done where I go, well, you know, it can go this way. I try to make them movies in which I'm leaving something in the world that I think is needed. It doesn't succeed always, but you always find some of the movies have a deeper connection. Like Pacific Rim, if you saw it at age 8 or 10,
right,
you know, it affects you the way other movies affected me in the genre when I was that age. And my labor is evangelical about monsters, you know, and about monsters as figures of parable, you know, parable, fairy tale, fable. I'm not interested in horror as director.
Right.
I'm interested in using figures from there to tell a political, humanistic, deep, and artistic little fables.
How was your trip?
Fine. Who's security here?
Just one moment, please.
Security. Who's security?
Welcome to T4, sir. Yes, sir. I am Fleming, head of security, and if there are questions you have or concerns, you can just follow me.
Sam, I'll be in charge.
Get them out. Help me move the cylinder into the compressor. Bring it here, bring it here.
What do you think? I mean, it's been talked about so much with you, with Alfonso Cuarón and Alejandro, and you've all worked together in different ways. They've worked on your films, you've worked on their films in different ways. They call you the Three Amigos. It is a golden time for Mexican cinema here in terms of that, coming to Hollywood. Why do you think now it's just exploded in that way?
Our generation marked a very big difference in Mexico, because before our generation, all the other generations were very guarded and very sort of insular. And our generation became very promiscuously engaged, one director with another. You know, I would work with Alfonso, and I would work with Emmanuel Lubezki as DP. I was a boom man, I was a makeup effects guy, I was a storyboarder. Alfonso was an assistant director, you know. So we all worked together, and it became very gregarious. And that made it also easy for us to produce for younger filmmakers coming up, which was not done prior to us. It was very insular. So, I think that, and we started focusing a lot on making movies look good, sound good, and have really, really modern, daring storytelling techniques visually. And that changed a little bit the paradigm of Mexican cinema.
Yeah, it looks like, and it keeps going forward, obviously with Iñárritu's virtual reality and exploring these different areas you can go into that nobody's seen before.
Nobody's seen. He's actually pioneering, in my opinion, the syntax and the language in VR beyond the amusement park ride ambitions that were before into a real storytelling machine. And then you have the new generations, Gerardo Naranjo, Carlos Reigadas, a bunch of filmmakers in Mexico and Latin America that are really, really strong.
So as a producer, and you mentioned you're producing all of this stuff, Netflix and everything else, you're going to pave the way for them now too.
Well, I've done it before. I mean, I have produced about 20 movies, and many of them are first-time filmmakers. Andy Muschietti with Mama, who went on to do It.
Yes.
Juan Antonio Bayona, first movie, The Orphanage, who went on to do everything he's done after that. Jorge Gutierrez, The Book of Life. I mean, I've done like 6 or 7 first-time filmmakers.
Yeah.
I won't do it anymore. Life's too short. But for a while, I thought it was paying it forward,
And it is paying it forward, too. And your work in animation for a long time with DreamWorks and different...
7 years.
Yeah, 7 years. And, and Netflix, you have a series. and
Which I co-direct now and then.
Yeah, which is great. So that's another fascinating area for you as a director, too?
It is. I'm moving more and more towards it in many ways. My ambition right now is to do a $45 million version of Pinocchio during the rise of Mussolini. So my pitches are always easy. I go and pitch and they go, let's say, it's always really hard for me to raise the money because the ideas are very different.
That's hard to walk into a studio office and pitch, right?
It is. But the Shape of Water, Pan's Labyrinth was impossible to pitch.
Yeah.
When I went through the entire town and every investor worldwide with Pan's Labyrinth, and everybody said no.
Wow.
Until one of them said yes. And it was Telecinco in Spain and Bob Burney at Picture House, And Pinocchio, I'm knocking the same doors because no matter what you do or if you're well known or not, it's still they're very strange pitches. When I went to the Searchlight, only studio I went to, first try, and I said, well, this is a love story between the Cold War, an amphibian man. They said, okay. Let's do it. That's it. Well,
How much of that is you telling them that and saying they are going with your vision?
Well, I showed them the maquettes. I had financed out of my pocket for about 2 years the design of the creature and the design of the look of the movie. And I had pages and I had the whole structure all financed by me. And I showed them all that, and they said the pitch was to do it in black and white.
Oh.
And then they said, it has to be color.
Yeah, and the love of movies is very clear in the movie theater, and the double feature that you're showing, which is very prominent on the board, the story of Ruth and Mardi Gras, two movies from the late 50s. But the story of Ruth, it's chosen for when people see this movie, very specific reasons why you're using these other movies.
Well, there are 2 reasons. One is the thematic one. The story of Ruth mirrors in many ways the journey of Eliza, and I think the more important thing is I wanted a movie that talked about an ancient world with gods, multiple pagan gods, because the creature could or could not be an elemental god from the river. It's not an animal; it's just an elemental god from the river. So I wanted to have that in the subtext, and in fact, Alexander Desplat, who composed a beautiful soundtrack, score, the score music for the creature is an Egyptian theme. In the story of Ruth.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And there's a key moment in the film where the creature is watching a movie for the first time in a theater, and you have these priests looking at him in the theater.
There's a rhyme to your reason on everything you do, and that score, by the way, there at the end you have a beautiful new version of You'll Never Know, sung by Renee Fleming, and it's orchestrated beautifully by Alexander Desplat as well.
And Renee Fleming, who is a coloratura, an amazing opera singer, worldwide, universally beloved. She came in and she did that because her beginnings were as a jazz singer.
Yeah.
So she comes in and does one gorgeous rendition of "You'll Never Know."
The best I've ever heard. And the thing I would say about Guillermo del Toro is you'll never know what you're going to do next, but I can't wait.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
My
coming
pleasure.
in.
Thank you. My pleasure.